All right. I guess we are live now. One second. All right. Yes. So we are live now. Sorry for the delay, guys, and really appreciate your patience. And thanks for tuning in to On the Block series with IoTex. And I'm your host, Akshay. I'm the community manager at CoinDCX. And today we have with us Larry Pang, who is the head of ecosystem with IoTX. And we really would like to thank Larry for taking time out and making this early from his time zone. It's 3:30 a.m. Where he currently stays, so it's really an honor for us to have him here on this show. And today we'll be talking about everything and anything that is going on in the IoTX ecosystem. So first of all, let me quickly bring you up in pace with what is On the Block series. So, On the Block is a series wherein we try to simplify and help people understand better ways about what all these blockchain projects out there are about, what are they are trying to solve, and more than anything else, trying to get a simple understanding of what that means to the users, the general users like you guys. So, in today's episode, as I mentioned, we have Larry from the IoTX project. So, as you guys must be aware that in the past week we conducted an AMA session for the IoTX earlier, where we received as a community an overwhelming response from our community. And since we couldn't answer all of your questions, we thought about hosting a live YouTube session for all of you to bring you more on the IoTX project. So we'll keep this session fun and light. And I will just take you through a quick introduction about the IoTX as well as the project. IoTX is a blockchain project that is marching forward with a mission to enable a borderless ecosystem where humans and machines can interact with guaranteed trust, free will, and privacy. So, powered by the IoTX platform, the Internet of Trusted Things is the first open, safe, and human-centered ecosystem of self-sovereign devices and user. Now, I can understand that there might be certain jargons here, quite a difficult definition to grasp on. So that's why we have brought Larry here. And before we jump into what this actually means, I would like to request Larry to please introduce himself and then take us through what this means in a simple and fun way. So, Larry, over to you.
Thanks so much, Akshay, and hello to the CoinDCX community and everyone watching around the world. My name is Larry, head of business development and ecosystem at IoTex. I grew up in Los Angeles and went to college at MIT. At MIT, I studied economics and finance and kind of carried that into my first job in consulting, where I worked in consulting for about 5 years. On many digital transformation projects, mostly with Fortune 500 clients, and that really gave me a understanding of how real business works today, right? I think coming out of college, you're very idealistic about how you want the world to be seen or how you want your vision of the world to look. But through working in consulting, I realized that everything is a business, but at the same time, when you're running your business, you can make certain decisions that will carry forward a good brand and reputation, right? So taking the lessons about what all the clients I worked with did wrong, I was able to form a really good, I think, worldview in my head. And joining IoTex about 1.5 or 2.5 years ago, I was able to start applying that brand in a startup capacity, in a very open, kind of free range kind of capacity, right? Because we're building this thing that didn't really exist before. So, through my consulting career, I really wanted to try something brand new, and came across IoTex. And, the first time I heard about Bitcoin, I got a really amazing reaction because it was something brand new, right? It was something that all of us have dealt with in the past, the concept of paying money or storing money, but they were thinking about it in a completely brand new way. And this is exactly what IoTex does too. When I first heard about IoTex, I got the similar feeling inside about when I heard about Bitcoin, right? It was about things that are very normal to us every day, the smart devices we use on a daily basis. but running those in a decentralized fashion and giving ownership to users and all these things that made sense on paper, it made me wonder, why doesn't the world work this way? So combining what I knew from corporate world in my consulting career and all the things I've learned over the past 2.5 years working at IoTex, um, nothing's clearer to me than this is how the future will work. And everyone on this call is already an early adopter. But we have to make the faster we kind of gather together, the faster we evangelize products and support real projects that are building real things, the faster we'll see the world kind of shift to this way that we envision it, right? Decentralized, borderless, etc. So what IoTex is, in a very high level, not even talking about technology, right? We're addressing a really big problem here. There's about 20 billion smart devices out there today. And by 2025, that's going to grow to upwards of 50 to 100 billion smart devices all around the world. Sensors, vehicles, mobile devices, everything that's gathering data from the real world, right? But you really have to wonder, okay, all these devices are great and all of this data that they generate is great, but why don't we own any of it, as users? Because the data that these devices generate are kind of like derivatives of of ourselves. And it's really crazy that none of us own that information. And it's really crazy also that sometimes we can look at the smart devices that are in our homes and wonder, is this device working for me? Or is it working for Google or Amazon or Facebook, right? So IoTex has built a platform that empowers users of these smart devices and also empowers builders to give users something that they want, right? Which is ownership, but also privacy, right? So really the things that are very usable today, IoTex is building real products, as I mentioned, right? One of them is UCam. So UCam is actually the first powered by IoTex product. And it's a home security camera that's powered by IoTex. And it's 100% private. All the videos that you capture using this camera are owned by the user, and everything is decentralized. Even the computation is decentralized. So, we kind of combine blockchain end-to-end encryption and edge computing in order to make this happen. And it's already live on Amazon, sold about 22,000, 2,500 so far in the past few months. But you can check it out, ucam.iotex.io. And we also make other types of devices similar to this. This is like an asset tracker device called Pebble. But I'm not going to dive too deep into that. I'll have more about that in the presentation. But hopefully that gives you a high-level idea of what IoTex is really trying to solve, right? A lot of people are trying to make the case of your keys, your funds for DeFi. We're making the case for your keys, your data as well, right? So using blockchain for kind of a different purpose, but it's all about decentralizing things that should be user-owned from the start. So that's kind of the mission of IoTex.
That's really great, Larry. As you mentioned that, like the analogy that you mentioned, that most of the users in the blockchain space are advocating for your keys, not your crypto, or not your asset. Wherein the statement which IoTX is moving forward with is not your keys, not your data. And we all
Exactly.
know that what really is the importance of data now is there in the present date, especially over the past 2 years. The way the entire tech industry and the overall industries in itself, even the traditional industry that we see, the way they have evolved over the past 2 years is something that none of us ever expected. The huge amount, the shift which has taken place in the last 2 years about the way the business is carried out, the way your data is evaluated, and things like that. Even the past year in itself is like a very unfortunate year because of the corona and the COVID that we all faced and we all had to go through. But data is one of the strongest sector that emerged out of that crisis, wherein the data was literally tagged or considered as the next oil, as the next asset which will drive the market going forward.
Yeah.
and positioning. I'm really excited to see the way IoTX has positioned itself in the upcoming market, and the values and the brand, like the technology it has developed over the past 2 years, because that was really a time when, in terms of crypto, the market was really taking a beat down. But
Hmm.
that was actually the time when you can work and you can think about the technology that you want to develop, which will sustain over the next 5 to 10 years. So
Exactly.
really,
Yeah. Just to add a little bit to that, I think that's a really great point, right? Like IoTex, we got started in uh, late 2017. We raised our fundraising round, private sale, in early 2018. And if you think about it, that's right about the time when the last alt season, bull run, whatever you want to call it, happened, right? And we didn't do an ICO. We did a private sale only to accredited investors. But for the past 2 years, it really has been a bear market where IoTex has been operating in, right? And it really shows the dedication of the team and our belief in this mission that we hung through the bear market, right? And I think we just continue to build through all the adversity. And the other thing that's really amazing is even back then, we understood that this is how the future should look like, right? If you asked me 2 years ago if we would be able to launch a security camera and have mass market mainstream people enjoy the user experience, it'd be very hard to imagine, right? But even now you can go to our Amazon listing and you can see 100 plus 4.5 star plus reviews. A lot of them from people that have never heard about blockchain before, right? So that's really amazing to us. And I think we're going to jumpstart something very interesting. And like you said, even this past year was so crazy, right? With COVID, here in the US, we had all the election stuff going on. A lot of misinformation just everywhere on the internet, right? And what's interesting is we announced UCAM probably December 2019, and we brought it to CES, the world's largest consumer electronics show, January of 2020. And even then, there were so many camera hacks going on. There's a famous camera company here in the US that's owned by Amazon. It's called Ring. And I remember when we first announced UCAM, there's so many people getting hacked through Ring cameras. But the really interesting thing to think about is nobody cared. They continue to use those Ring cameras. And only recently, just the past year, I think really put the entire world through a bender, right? And just a couple weeks ago, you saw kind of, I would say, the first mass mainstream migration from WhatsApp to Signal and Telegram, right? So the world is now ready to, for some reason, now is the time, right? I think all of the things that happened over the past 2 years, even the past decade, with all these breaches, all of these hacks, we see them in the headlines, but nobody really took the actions to change. But now, looking at the statistics from Signal, there's a huge migration moving on. And the WhatsApp terms and conditions are no different than what they were before, right? It was just something in there's a tipping point in society, right? And I think this migration from non-private messengers to private messengers will paint a picture about how people evaluate their data as well, right? So going from non-private cameras over to private cameras, and other things in their life they're going to start to want to privatize and decentralize. So, I think that's really interesting to evaluate how the world changed around us over the past 2 years, but also sticking true to what we believed in, right? It's very tempting in this industry to chase trends and, do things for hype. But this is exactly the opposite of what IoTex is, right? We're trying to really make IoTex the real platform. The brand is very important to us, that people realize when they have an IoTex product in their hands, it's something that works, and it's something that's designed for the user. So this philosophy from the platform perspective will also translate to the builders that build on IoTex. So if you're an IoT builder or a Dapp builder, definitely reach out, and we would love to welcome you into our mindset. And the community also shares this mindset as well. So yeah, just a little extra context.
Right. Yeah. Lots of great points and lots of good factors that you have pointed out to. Mainly, it, the mass has started to being aware, has started to grown aware about all the
Hmm.
things that goes in and around the technology over the past decades, and especially within the last year, as more and more headlines come into the mainstream media. People have started noticing that there is some gap in the technology or in the execution
Hmm.
of the uh, any particular framework, any particular infrastructure that needs to be changed. And really excited to see how IoTX is working upon that and tackling the same. So let's start with the digging deeper more into the IoTX system, and let's check out what is the road ahead, and what are the cool stuff which is there for the users ahead, lined
Definitely.
up in the year 2021. All right.
Hmm.
So let's just jump start into that. Our viewers are keenly waiting for that. So
Awesome.
let's uh, let's go with that. Let's take us through that.
Great. So yeah, I'm going to take you guys through a presentation that really introduces IoTex at a deeper level, right? So IoTex, as Akshay mentioned earlier, we have a vision for what we call the Internet of Trusted Things, right? It's very obviously a play on the Internet of Things, but we want to embed trust by default into the Internet of Things, right? So the Internet of Trusted Things we imagine to be consisting of all different types of things, right? Whether a thing is a human, a device, a business, an application, we want everything in our ecosystem to be trusted by default. So that when you have a human that wants to talk to a machine, or a machine wants to talk to another machine through the blockchain, those things are trusted already. So you don't have to rebuild trust every time you have a new transaction. Very much the ethos of blockchain, but applied to IoT, right? So during this presentation, I'm going to walk you guys through a short introduction about IoTex, some of the current initiatives we have going on, a little deep dive into our platform for anybody that's more techie out there, and then I want to share with you guys one active campaign that we have going on related to Pebble. We're having an ideathon with a lot of great prizes, and going through the ideathon will really make you understand exactly what the next level of IoTex is, not just constrained to a camera, but other types of data as well. And yeah, if there's any time for questions or things like that, maybe we can have some of that as well. But just started in short introduction to IoTex, right? IoTex, we're based in Silicon Valley. We were backed by 30 plus engineers from Amazon, Google, Facebook, kind of the very big Silicon Valley tech firms. So bringing a lot of the engineering and business expertise from the world's largest companies in order to build IoTex. As far as our tech stack, we really combine different types of technologies. Blockchain is one important technology for us. It's the root of trust for the entire network. But we also need things like decentralized identity to ensure people own their information and their identity. We need things like confidential computing, which is a way to protect data while it's being used. Is another kind of extension of privacy that I'll dive into a little bit more. And we also have a lot of integrations and dev tools that make our platform very easy to build on. You can think about IoTex as a layer one blockchain. We use a similar model as Ethereum. We're EVM compatible. But we've designed everything from scratch. We built everything from scratch in IoTex and really designed it to be tailor fit for blockchain and IoT applications. And what that means is you have to have a blockchain that's fast, right? Our blockchain does 5-second blocks with instant finality. So in 5 seconds, all transactions are finalized on IoTex. It also has to be flexible and expressive in order to cater to very heterogeneous IoT devices. So all of these design decisions, when we started building IoTex more than 2.5 years ago, we really started to really apply that. And what's really amazing is over the past 2.5 years, we've just really made so much progress, right? I think a lot of the projects that we're so-called competitors with, they've been around for 5 years, and I think we've accomplished much in this short time when we've only been around for about 3, right? So As I mentioned, we started in late 2017. We raised fundraising in early 2018. Up until around mid 2019, we were building test nets and code releases, but we launched our mainnet alpha in April of 2019. On this Destination Award for UCAM in early 2020. And finally, we launched our full mainnet GA platform, which is a fully native network powered by our native IoTex token in June, right? And, I don't have a slide here for the IoTex token, but the IoTex token is basically the currency of the IoTex network, right? It has multiple uses. The things that you're probably most used to as far as a layer one kind of platform token is, of course, you can stake this token and vote for delegates that kind of mine the blockchain. You can earn some great staking rewards, up to 10% per year. But also you can participate in governance, right? You can stake and vote and vote for network-wide policies. But those are the things that you're usually used to in many layer one platforms today. The other things that you could do with the IoTex token, which are very unique, is the IoTex token is used to register different types of devices to the blockchain. So, for example, this camera, we work with the camera manufacturer who pays IoTex in order to register their devices to the chain. And finally, the last part is we plan to have a very expressive network of service providers that service IoTex users and devices, and the IoTex token will be used to register those providers to the network. So that's just a little background on the history of IoTex and the coin. But where are we headed, right? Our journey has really just begun. I think we already have real world products out there, but we're still at this first step today where it's trusted data and trusted devices, right? So IoTex really wants to make sure that anyone can own and control their devices as well as the data and the value that they generate, right? So for a device like UCAM, for example, we want to make sure all the videos are owned exclusively by you. Nobody can access them except you, right? But in the future, when we think about machines and devices and robots, we have to think about the potential for them to make money autonomously, right? There's a lot of machines out there that need no human intervention in order to make money today. Things like vending machines, mining rigs, solar farms, solar panels are all things today that people want to own the device itself, but they also want to own the data and the value that comes from it, right? In the future, when we start to think about things like robo-taxis and autonomous cars, right? These things are going to be kind of like humans in a way, except completely robotic, powered by AI, and hopefully powered by blockchain to make sure that not only are they ultra secure and cannot be hacked, but also belong to users and benefit users instead of corporations, right? So that's where we are today. Trusted data from trusted devices. Where we're going next is once people own their data, healthcare data is a great example of this, right? Health data is something that everyone wants to own, but people can't necessarily read or analyze their own healthcare data, right? They need to go to a doctor and say, okay, here's my data. Let me know if I'm healthy or not, right? But the next step is going to be creating applications that help you analyze your data, but also in a privacy-preserving way. So you can still own data and use it without sacrificing your privacy. And this has a lot to do with the technology that's called confidential computing, which I'll dive into a little bit more. But where we're really heading in the future, right, is this concept of human-machine economies, right? A lot of people think about blockchain as, just a database or a platform, but when you add IoT to it, it really becomes an interesting blend of the real world and the digital world, right? And maybe I can explain. So let's think about like the different intersections of physical and digital, right? So as an example, in the digital world, if I buy a token today, right, usually I can use it in a Dapp and I'll get like a digital reaction, right? If I buy a token and I spend it, then maybe I get a digital asset in return. But what IoTex is really going to be allow people to do is, because we have physical devices connected to our blockchain, the smart contracts can not only take data from devices as inputs, but they can also instruct devices to do things, right? So when we think about buying a token, maybe I can use that token to unlock a door in the physical world, right? Or maybe things in the physical world, like my GPS location, can unlock capabilities in the digital world, right? So if I'm within a certain GPS geofence, then maybe the smart contract will unlock a special digital map for me that tells me some points of interest, right? So when you add the physical layer to it, it not only becomes a new data source, but it becomes a new source of actions that you can take as a result of the smart contract. And that's where things get really interesting, right? And then we can start to think about how to combine physical world data to generate different types of digital reactions. And that's what we call the Internet of Trusted Things, right? It's these human machine economies, trusted applications, utilize trusted data from trusted devices, right? So again, it's important that everything in our ecosystem is trusted, so that when we have these peer-to-peer interactions between humans and machines and machines, that you don't have to rebuild trust. It's trustless in that sense, right? So this is a high-level overview of IoTex and our journey. But the journey's not finished, right? We have a lot of current initiatives that I think are really fascinating, right? Obviously starting with the public blockchain. This is a kind of an old slide because the last time I presented this, we were only at 5 million transactions, and now we're at 10. We just crossed 10 million transactions on the IoTex network earlier this month. And it's maintained by 60 delegates, including CoinGecko, Blockfolio, all these folks you see here in our delegates ecosystem. If you're interested in being a validator on our network, it's really easy to get started, and you can find a lot of information just on our website. We also work a lot with enterprise, where we have a consortium blockchain implementation, and this is really about closed environments where enterprises can kind of combine the data from their smart devices in a trustless way without needing to think about tokens and things like that, right? So this is more of a blockchain as a service. Another thing that we're really proud of is, up until this point, I would say, a lot of the development of IoTex has been from the core team, right? But late last year, we launched the Halo Grants program, where we allocated more than $5 million to fund different types of grants. Whether you're a builder of technology, a builder of ecosystems, we've funded over 11, 12 projects now, and all of them are working on very unique things, right? From privacy preserving dApps to medical supply chain using some of our devices to, fun NFT style games. There's a lot of different things that people are building on IoTex, right? And a lot of people see the products of IoTex kind of as the project. Some people see IoTex as a camera company, for example, but that's the farthest thing from what we are, right? We really are enablers of these human machine economies through blockchain. So the Halo Grants program is a great way for anyone to get involved and start building with IoTex. We would love to hear your ideas. And as I mentioned, UCAM is a really big milestone for us, right? We partnered with this very large security camera manufacturer called Tembis, and we've launched this product successfully to market, and it's award-winning, featured in Newsweek and ZDNet, and we anticipate UCAM will have a very big year for the reasons we shared earlier, just this mass migration towards privacy products. Another really great product is Pebble Tracker, right? So Pebble is more of a developer-focused product, and it's basically a decentralized tracker, but it has built-in secure hardware, just like the secure hardware in your ledger that manages your private keys, and the secure hardware in your mobile phone that manages your Face ID and your fingerprints. This is like an ultra-secure part of the processor that really allows the device to sign data on the edge so that you can trust it and establish provenance and traceability. And I'll dive more into this later on in the presentation. And finally, we do a lot of work with enterprise, right? A lot of the things that we do are consumer facing, but for enterprises, this technology is very interesting to them, but for different reasons, right? Enterprises care about reliability, security, stability, and blockchain can definitely provide that. But it's a different format than what we present to consumers and consumer products. I'll just skim the IoTex platform section. I don't want to get too techy on this call, but as I mentioned, IoTex is a layer 1 blockchain, right? We try to power dApps and different types of products on our network and devices, but it really requires a full stack in order to do this, right? A lot of people think about blockchain as the silver bullet, the panacea that's going to solve everything, but it's really not, right? Blockchain is great for one thing. It's great for building trust where trust does not exist. Having a ledger for transparency, shared communication, just ensuring all of the things that operate on top of this layer are trusted, right? But what you build on top, as far as middleware and dev tools, is also very important, and it really differentiates the platform a lot. So when evaluating different projects, it's important to think about what middleware and what dev tools they've built in order to enable different types of applications, right? So the things that we've built into our platform are really focused on 3 things, right? We really want, again, everyone to be able to own and control their information as well as the value that they generate. We want people to be able to use and monetize that information in a trustless way. And finally, we want that information to be interoperable across different ecosystems and even blockchain networks in the future. So everything you see on this page is ultimately meant to create trusted data from trusted devices to feed trusted applications. And that's kind of the overview of the platform. We are working on an IoT data oracle, which is really important to bring verifiable data to dApps. And again, these are the kind of human machine type of engagements that we're talking about. If you're ever going to have a machine dictate what happens to you in the real world, you better make sure that machine is 100% trustworthy and verifiable, right? And there's levels to this game. I think IoTex establishes the highest standard for trust. And maybe that's a little slower as far as the adoption cycle, but our thesis is the world is going to work this way in the future, right? Privacy and security are going to be value-added services for now, but very soon regulations are going to demand higher security and higher privacy. And when that day comes, IoTex will be the standard for it. But in the meantime, we're already powering different products that adopt this vision. DID is also very important to us as kind of the mechanism that allows people to own their identity and own their information. And finally, this concept of secure hardware and confidential computing. As I mentioned, secure hardware is used a lot today, but it's mostly closed and proprietary. What we've done is opened up secure hardware so that people can program on top of it, right? Like the cell phones, the chips in your cell phone that manage your biometrics, the chips in your credit card, that little chip is also a piece of secure hardware, and obviously your crypto wallets. So this is the concept of, using ultra secure hardware almost as a trusted third party in order to add more verifiability and trust into your ecosystem. Again, Halo is one thing that I wanted to mention. So we support 2 different types of Halo grants. One is we have a wish list, right, of things that we want people to build in the IoTex network. And we call these requests for proposals, RFPs, right? So if you want to claim one of the projects on our wish list that are more standard, things like, different cross-chain bridges, different wallets, things like this, then you can start to, hey, Akshay, maybe I think the screen changed a bit. Oh, no. Yeah, if you want to build, different types of things on IoTex, there's also another type of grant. It's an open-ended proposal, right? This is where you pitch us anything that you want to build. Hopefully something that is aligned with IoTex's vision for, trust and privacy and IoT. But if you want to pitch us your idea, we're all ears to listen, right? And as I mentioned, we've already funded 10 plus projects and looking to fund even more this year. So definitely reach out. But if this is not really your jam and you want to play with something more developed, then I want to share with you guys one thing, and it's called Pebble, right? So we were talking about Pebble Tracker here. Right now we're running an ideathon about what types of use cases you can build with this device in real life, right? So the basic premise of Pebble I talked to you a little. I talked to you a lot about UCAM already. I'm going to dive into Pebble because this is more of the really hyper advanced part of IoTex, right? This is really a combination of tamper-proof hardware, meaning this hardware cannot be tampered with, and tamper-proof software, which is blockchain, right? So it's kind of combining different tamper-proof technologies in order to create tamper-proof information. So basically, we unleash the power of verifiable data and establish a new standard for trust. All the data from Pebble is fully verifiable, which means anyone, even people that you don't trust or don't trust you, can verify that this information was generated accurately and from a specific device, right? And a lot of people hear about the term "don't trust but verify," which was popularized by Bitcoin. And that basically says, all the information is there on the chain and all the signatures are there. You can go in and trust and verify yourself whether this data is correct, right? So that's the first important part. We use a secure element with an open source operating system to really make this verifiable data happen. And the next question is, what can we do with this verifiable data, right? Why is it important? Pebble Tracker is a multi-sensor and cellular-based asset tracker. So anywhere you can get a cell signal, Pebble can stream data directly to the blockchain. But it's not just any normal data, right? It's very expressive data, things like GPS location, different climate readings, temperature, humidity, pressure, and gas, different movement things, vibration, shock, and orientation, and also a light sensor. So all these sensors are built in to this small device, and it streams that data directly into different smart contracts, which is really exciting, right? Going back to those human machine things, if you wanted to use Pebble in order to say, if the temperature is this, then I'm going to kick off a digital action. I'm going to settle a payment. I'm going to trigger a workflow, or I'm going to unlock a lock, right? There's so many different actions you can take, but they're triggered by this concept of a verifiable insight, right? So that's what we really want to explore with this ideathon, right? So this is just like a very simple idea about how Pebble can be used in the real world, right? We all know that COVID is going, the COVID vaccines are going out soon, right? But I'm not sure how the distribution is going in India, but in the States, in the United States, it's a disaster, right? There's so many stories about, different pharmacies opening up packages and ruining vaccines because these have low temperature. So when we think about where can we use blockchain and IoT to fix this scenario, it's all about providing accountability and transparency into all the different players in the supply chain, right? So when we think about this scenario, I need to ship this vaccine and it must be kept below freezing temperature. Okay, we can have a simple SLA, service level agreement, that says if it goes below zero, then it's normal payment. If it goes above zero, then you lose your money. But how do we know for sure, right? Unless we go to court and have a legal battle to say this person is responsible, there's no unbiased third party that can give us a single version of the truth. But if you insert Pebble, which is a blockchain registered, unbiased, and tamper-proof device, you can really add a lot of transparency into that process. And you can also automate a lot of business logic, right? So if you want to give, if say that the vaccine or the government wants to give the shipping company an incentive to ship it even below zero, right? Negative 10 degrees C instead of 0 degrees C, saying if you never go above negative 10 degrees Celsius, I'll pay you double, right? Because this is so important that these are not spoiled. But if you just do a normal job and you ship it between 0 and negative 10 C, then I'll give you normal, right? Then we have all the data there and we can start to automate these kind of things, right? And it really gets interesting once you start to combine different types of metrics, right? What if you have temperature and GPS? Then you can combine those things in order to create different actions, right? If you are in this location at this specific time and you have not breached temperature, then I'm going to pay you triple, right? There's so many different kind of actions that you can take based on this verifiable information. And that's what this idea is about. We really want to understand, if you had this verifiable data in your hands, what would you do with it, right? And if you think of, there's so many different, physical, digital interactions, as I shared, you can really start to get creative. And just with verifiable GPS location, you can do so many things, right? So if you guys want to join, you can just check out Pebble Ideathon on YouTube. Type that in, IDEA-THON, Pebble. And we have a great video that dives much deeper into this use concept and explores a lot of ways to think about not just these data metrics, but also the insights that you can generate from those metrics and how it can be applied in the real world. And that's my presentation for today, but hopefully everything I've shared during the presentation really opens up people's eyes a bit into, a lot of people about blockchain only as DeFi or only as payments, only as things that are related to, move money around, right? But maybe for the past couple of years, it's been very focused on that. And that's because the only data that we can verifiably bring to the blockchain is price data, right? You think about all these oracles out there, Chainlink, Band, DIA, API3, etc. All of them have brought a lot of useful price feed related information. And that really catalyzed the DeFi renaissance, as I want to call it, right? There's, I think over the past year, there's been a 3,300% growth in assets locked in DeFi, right? It's from 650 million now to $22 billion in assets in DeFi. And I think that's just because the data from these crypto price feeds was available for builders, and all the builders and all the users can agree on a single version of the truth, right? And that's what really sparked all of this innovation in the past couple of years. Is now we finally have data that blockchains can use, right? Now IoTex is taking this to the next level by, in addition to price data, now we're adding data from the real world, right? And if you think about this argument about more data on the chain equals more possibilities, IoTex is really opening up possibilities that maybe people don't even comprehend in blockchain yet. But very soon, I think there's a good saying I love. First, crypto will be used for payments, and blockchain will be used for truth, right? And these days, truth is so important, right? There's a lot of things that even in our daily lives, we're not sure whether we can trust or not. So from our funds to now our devices, with IoTex, we want to urge everyone to just really think about this, both from an individual perspective, but also from a societal perspective. How do we push society forward to adopt these solutions? And again, we're all early adopters here. So thank you for listening to my presentation. And I think Akshay has a quiz for you guys now. It's interesting, from the time we started, now it's bright outside. So yeah.
Yes, even yeah, I noticed that. So first of all, thank you, Larry, for taking us through the presentation. Really a great insights into the project and what IoTX is working upon. Even couple of interesting points I picked up, and I wanted to talk about that before we dive into the quiz round. And before we dive into the quiz round, we'll also request our viewers to please kindly fill out the form which is available in the description before you participate in the quiz round ahead. So this device that you introduced us with, the Pebble. So I believe like it can be physically integrated with any existing physical thing which is out there. Like just the device needs to be placed in the package, and the data will be recorded around that. Is that correct?
Correct, right? If you think about this device, like what it is just an unbiased third party. It's like a robot worker, right? There's no bias, company bias that's put into this. It's just tamper-proof hardware. Nobody can tamper with it. It just provides the truth, right? A lot of people then ask us, what if you have someone that wants to manipulate the truth, right? Say that I have this in the back of a truck and I want to manipulate the data so it looks like I've done something, right? It's very hard to fake real data, right? So even there's tamper proof and then there's tamper evident, right? The hardware itself is tamper proof, but the data that it produces is tamper evident. If you know that someone's trying to fake the data, unless they do it absolutely perfectly, then you're going to know that they faked it, and that's already still a very good benefit, right? So um, this is really interesting, right? When you think about, okay, we can have devices that tell the absolute truth and nothing but the truth, right? Then we can consider these to be even more trusted than humans, right? Or companies that are could be manipulated or paid off behind the scenes, right? You can't pay off a device like this that's registered to the blockchain and is built with tamper-proof hardware. It's just not possible, right? So that really makes me question in other industries, what types of tamper-proof robots can we use to replace error-prone humans or error-prone intermediaries, right? It's going to add a lot of trust to the way we do things. But the thing is, um, this is going to sound a little strange to say, but my personal belief is a lot of corporations in this world don't want you to have the truth, right? So that's the reason why adoption of this is going to be very ground up, right? Like a lot of people say, hey, why don't you guys use blockchain and IoT to solve our elections issue, right? Like put IoT sensors in every mailbox or every voting machine, right? But my personal opinion is the US is not behind on tech. These decisions to not use technology are very obviously um, purposeful, right? They don't want transparency in the election. And just like Google and Apple don't want transparency for your data, right? It's really going to be the choice of the people, how they want to live their lives, right? If they want to, live a very service-based business, give all your data to Apple and Google, you can live a great life, right? Like people like my mother, God bless her, but she doesn't know anything about technology, right? So she's gonna, look at these services and be like, oh, great, they're adding a lot of value to me, and I'm going to, use their products, right? But on the flip side, my dad is an engineer, and he doesn't even trust the cloud, right? He puts everything on flash drives, right? So there's a lot of people at very ends of the spectrum, but you're seeing both sides shift more towards privacy. The line is being drawn further and further out. So um, yeah, I think it's just interesting, right? I don't want people to limit their imagination of what IoTex is just to these two devices. You can think about IoTex as a platform to power all types of devices like this, right? If we have a global army of blockchain registered robot workers, imagine all the things that we can do. Not just, right now it's very one way, right? Devices grab data and we use it in dApps. But once we're able to go two ways, devices grab data, send it to a smart contract, the smart contract processes it, and then sends an instruction to another device to do something. This is how autonomous organizations form, right? You have to have, if you have to stop at every point and say, hey, does everyone agree that everything else is trusted up to this point? Okay, now we can go to the next step. That's not autonomous at all. That's what the real world looks like, right? So when we think about these things, it's not just about privacy, it's not just about security, but it's about autonomy. It's about creating the future that we all want. None of this is going to happen without a trusted platform to run our devices on, and that's exactly what IoTex is building.
Yeah, you said that right, exactly. As in, a lot of people might not fathom, or they can, actually grasp what the technology you guys are working upon or building
Mm-hmm.
at the moment, because most of the people who are there in the blockchain industry, apart from the all smart minds and the developers and the tech people who are involved, usually, the people come and they go just because of the hype that they see in
Mm-hmm.
every season, be it the DeFi, be it the ICO boom in 2017 and things like that. And with blockchain and cryptocurrency, we are only solving one part of the equation, which is to build the trust, as you mentioned in your presentation as well. But what about the real world? Because some way or the others, like somewhere down the lane, both the worlds have to coincide, have to collaborate, the physical and the non-physical world, in order to make this entire movement to grow, to be used. Like, like this is the general uh, talk or the debate like happens around this conversation, as in what is the use case of the blockchain. So
Hmm.
that is what lies in the future, in the sense like when blockchain combines with the physical world, that will be the real use case. And how do you bring the physical world to the non-physical world? That is going to be through IoT, the Internet of Things. And
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
is
you hit
what
it right on the
exactly
head.
you guys are working upon. So
I
it is
couldn't
a
have said it
really
better.
big
Yeah.
concept, really big idea to just
Hmm.
grasp, consume, and put your head around, so that you get the full gist of that, full like full to the fullest extent you can get that idea, as in what will happen in the future
Hmm.
using this technology and the structure and the infrastructure that IoTX is building.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
really excited about that, really excited to see how this all pans out over the upcoming years. So now let's straight away dig deeper into the open quiz round for our community. Everyone has been waiting for that. So just a quick intro for the open quiz round. All the quizzes, we will have 10 questions for all of you, and all the questions will be around the IoTX system, IoTX infrastructure, the project, and the ecosystem. So I hope you guys will get to know more about the IoTX through this quiz round and sharpen your skills. So let's go ahead and dig straight into the open quiz round. And I'll quickly share my screen here. Give me 1 second. All right.
Good. Good first question.
Yes. So I hope everybody can see this screen now. Let me
Hmm.
know in the comments, guys, if you guys can see the screen. All right. Okay. So yeah. So the first question is, what year was IoTX founded in? And you can see the options on your screen. And fastest one to reply will be the winner for this particular question. So we'll just give it some time for the users to fill in the answers, and then we'll take it forward from there. We'll get to know the right answer to this question, and then we will move on to the next one. So while the community is answering, taking the time to answer the same, I would really like to quickly touch upon one thing here. So as you mentioned, like Larry, as you mentioned back in 2018, when everything was coming down, crashing down, and that is the time when you guys were actually building upon the project and working upon the infrastructure and everything. In fact, I started my journey as well back in 2017, and it was during that time I was not aware about how trading worked in the ecosystem and anything like that. So I got involved. My first trading experience was related with IoTX only. There was the trading competition which was going on,
Mm,
and
nice.
I participated in that. And luckily, I was like that was my first trading experience, and luckily, I was lucky enough to participate and win at the same point of time as well. So that's how my journey in the trading industry started with IoTX only. So
Not many people can say that they won any kind of crypto related competition. That's very rare. That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
I've never won anything in my time here. So not that I'm joining that many competitions, but no, that's interesting. Yeah.
Right.
Flashback.
Yeah, flashback. That to a trading competition, which is highly competitive.
Hmm.
So that was really amazing. So let's now quickly check what the right answer for this question is. And that is 2017. So let's see who all are the lucky winners in the chat. You guys, all of the community members, you guys can leave your answers in the chat, and we will pick it up from there. Looking at your response, who will be the fastest one, we'll move forward with that. We'll pick that as a winner. So now moving on to the next question. Who has full control over all the information and data using UCAM? IoTX, Google, Amazon, or you as a user? So we'll just quickly give a minute or two for the community to answer this. And in the meanwhile, I'll just quickly touch upon the UCAM product. That is a really cool uh, gizmo, like a really cute product, I would say.
Hmm.
Not
It's like
when it
a lot
comes
of
to
people
the
say it looks like a BB-8, from Wally.
right. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, exactly. It was reminding me of something, but I was not able to grasp that. But it is a really cute product. Not every company, and that too being in the blockchain industry, coming up with the such an edgy product might
Right.
can be challenging. It can be challenging. There are so many moving parts that goes into developing a hardware product in itself.
I can't
So
tell you how true that is. Hardware is hard. You know what I mean? A
right,
lot of people think about dApps on blockchain, but really building a real working product that we're comfortable not just selling to crypto people, but selling to people that have never heard about blockchain in their lives. Like, what's really interesting is that, I still remember when we were doing our beta testing, we beta tested this with like 100 or 100 plus people here in Silicon Valley. And I was just very nervous to see what their reaction would be, right? Like, what is someone going to say when you put this long private key in front of them when they've never heard of a private key before? And what's really interesting is when you say, hey, this is the key to your privacy and not the key to your magical internet money, people love private keys. They're like, okay, I want a private key for everything. Why do I have to have a password, right? So we're getting to that point where even explaining the technology in a different way to them, even starting with your keys, your data, before you go to your keys, your funds, maybe a better way to onboard people to the blockchain industry. So yeah, I think this is a pretty easy quiz question, but there's so many, yeah, so some interesting things about UCAM for sure in the future. More channels and more cool stuff coming.
I will surely check that out before after this presentation. I'll go to the Amazon and check that product out. Definitely.
Definitely, yeah.
And let's quickly move and check what the right answer is. And that's D, user. So you as a user has full control over all the information and data using UCAM. So guys, definitely check that out and go and get one so that you can secure your house or any place that you want to through the security camera and control your data at the same point of time as well. Now let's quickly move on to the next question. So, okay, that's gonna need some technical know-how about the ecosystem. So what consensus mechanism does IoTX use? A, GPOS, B, role DPoS, C, proof of work, or D, proof of stake?
Yeah, I didn't mention this one during my presentation. It might require a little digging. But yeah,
That'll be okay. That'll be okay. I believe the users can take a little bit.
mm-hmm.
So
Worth
it's
digging into,
interesting,
I would say. Yeah.
it is, though it is interesting that like when Bitcoin came earlier as a proof of work, it really dominated the space as a proof of work mechanism for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But over the last couple of years, the mechanism, the consensus mechanism, is really evolving around all the blockchains.
Yeah. Also,
be
the
the proof
perception
also
of
very
blockchain is
right.
different from consensus, right? Like, we when we pitch like UCAM and Pebble to different reporters in the mainstream, right? The funny thing is, like, they always add something about, you know, oh, by the way, did you know blockchain is very energy wasting? Like, why do I want to power my camera and cause climate change at the same time? And people still think that, Bitcoin is blockchain in the real world, right? Like, everything runs with proof of work. And once you explain to them that, Bitcoin has this very complicated puzzle to be fully decentralized, but, other platforms are using different types of consensus mechanisms that are very energy saving, not energy wasting, right? Then they start to think about, well, first the reaction is like, I don't believe you, but the next reaction is like, okay, yeah, let me look into this a little bit more. My ingoing assumptions about blockchain are not correct, right? Similar reaction with UCAM. So yeah, consensus is not talked about too much anymore. I remember in 2018, it was just about what consensus do you have and how many TPS do you do, right? But now we're at what real products do you have, and that's really the bar. Not about consensus that much, but still incredibly important that whatever blockchain you build on knows how to build a consensus mechanism the right way. Yeah.
Right. Definitely, definitely. So let's check what consensus mechanism does IoTex uses. And the right answer is B, role delegated proof of stake. So
Yes.
before we move on to the next question, can we just really quickly, like in a sentence or two, quickly touch upon that? As in, what does role delegated proof of stake is? What makes it different from delegated proof of stake?
Yes, absolutely. So delegated proof of stake was popularized by blockchains like EOS and Tron, right? So basically, delegated proof of stake is where all the token holders can vote for delegates in order to run consensus, right? Tron and EOS both have 21 delegates, and that number is fixed, right? It adds a lot of performance to your blockchain, but it's criticized a little bit because it's a little less decentralized than other things, right? So what we've done is we wrote our own consensus mechanism completely from scratch, and we call it roll depose. And the roll part is kind of rolling the dice. It's randomization. So basically, we've added a randomized selection layer. We still have 21 consensus delegates. Sorry, we have 24 consensus delegates producing blocks at any time. But every hour, we randomly select 24 new ones out of the top 36. So this adds more decentralization without affecting performance. So that's why roll depose is named roll depose and why it's a better variant of depose.
Interesting concept.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
We have a
So
very detailed yellow paper if you want to dive into that on our website as well. Yeah.
sure, definitely. I believe our users will be more than happy to check that out. And now let's move on to the next question, which is, what is the code name of IoTex mainnet GA release? And your options are Machina, PowerX, Turbine, Robotex.
This is a good one too. Yeah, some background on our mainnet releases, right? So when IoTex started, we launched our token and our staking and voting on Ethereum first. So we were using Ethereum as the more stable blockchain at the time to hold our users' funds while we were building up our own native chain, right? So in April of 2019, we launched our mainnet alpha, uh, which kind of was a hybrid network between IoTex and Ethereum. So staking and voting were happening on both platforms, and throughout 2019, we made a lot of design and building to migrate away from Ethereum, and mainnet GA represented the full migration away from Ethereum. So we were fully native chain for mainnet GA. And that's important for a number of reasons, right? We have no dependence on Ethereum anymore. Thank God this was before all of the gas costs and gas prices went crazy. But right at the tail end of that, we launched mainnet GA in June of 2020. Right after that, we saw, the DeFi renaissance craziness happen and gas prices soared, right? So that's just a little background on our mainnet releases. But.
No, absolutely. That in itself is a great achievement in the sense many projects came in during 2017, 2018 on the Ethereum blockchain, and
Mhm.
quite most of them failed even to deliver the basic project because of the cold winter season, because of the cold season in the bear
Mhm.
market in the entire crypto industry. And being taken, like taking your project from a dependent being dependent on a blockchain and fully converting it to your own mainnet is in itself an achievement. So
Mhm.
really, really great to know that from your end. And let's just quickly check what is the right answer for this. And that is A,
Machina.
Machina. Machina.
Kind of like,
That's the
that
correct.
movie Do Ex Machina, or Ex Machina is like a very futuristic sci-fi movie. So it means of the machine.
Of
So
the machine.
this was actually selected by the community as the code name for our mainnet GA, and it was voted by the community as well. So there's a common saying called "Deus ex machina," Deus ex machina, and that means, yeah, it kind of means like saved by some, you know, invisible force, right? So we thought that kind of thing represents IoTex well, right? It's like we're the invisible force that's coming to save the day through machines. So uh, just a little backstory around Machina there, but I like the name a lot. I think it's cool.
Yeah, very futuristic, very cool. And that's a pretty deep background to the name,
Yeah.
definitely.
Hmm.
So let's move on to the next question in series. And that is, what is IoTex vision slogan? And the options for the community is IoT, B, Internet of Trusted Things, C, new kind of IoT, and D, powered by IoTex technology. I think this should be pretty simple and pretty easy for everyone to answer.
I hope so. Or else we're not doing our marketing the right way. Yeah.
So it's interesting, as in, like, one common theme that I can notice is that the vision or the strategy is more about combining the two aspects, which is the machine and the human together. That I can see in your mainnet uh, name as well, mainnet release name as well, and during your presentation as well. You mentioned about human and blockchain.
Hmm.
There was a part in the presentation about the human and the machine
Yeah.
fusion. Correct.
Right.
That's a great analogy, because as you're moving forward into all this decentralized world, more and more things will be converged. Like there will come a point, which I believe personally, that wherein there will be very less distinction between the human and the machine.
100%. Yeah. Already starting to see it happen, right? I think, you know, we should think about human machine type of things, right? Like a lot of times we think about devices as providing humans services, right? But very soon we're going to start to think about devices as extensions of humans also, right? Like you think about all these different prosthetics, exoskeletons, Google Glass. I think Google Glass is going to be really big in the future. It's just a little too early for its time. But imagine you had some glasses on, your glasses, Akshay, and you can see, like you have ability to look at someone and scan social media, and then you know their name just by looking at those glasses. It's very like futuristic Black Mirror type of thing. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with blockchain, but I think people are going to be surprised how soon things like that happen and how soon people actually use those products. Like if you think about it today, everyone's like, no way I would use that, right? But I mean, it's similar to you putting on a wearable when you run, right, to track your movement and things like this. Maybe you're not going to wear those glasses every single day, but you go to a networking event and you'd be like, okay, this is this person, that's that person. Maybe the networking event is, there's no more name tags. It's just here, wear these glasses. You can know who everybody is, right? All of these use cases are kind of weird to think about today, but again, machines will very soon be extensions of human bodies. And I think being sure that you trust those machines is going to be second nature thanks to IoTex, but really something that's very futuristic today. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And for any of the users, if they are wondering what these futuristic vision might look like or the tech will look like, do check out Black Mirror, as Larry mentioned.
Yeah.
You will definitely get great insights into that, into the future.
Yeah.
So moving on to the answer for this question, and that is Internet of Trusted Things. Not just the things, trusted, so that the
Yes.
trust is elevated from a medium, from a third party, and it is purely based on the blockchain and your IoT product. So great vision. And let's move forward to the next question, which is, what's the name of IoTex device that generates data that can be verified and trusted by anyone? And the options are A, tracker, B, track it, C, pebble, and D, IoTrack.
A funny story about this is that it's really hard to find product names these days that haven't been taken, or a company name, right? Like I saw yesterday, we have this decentralized exchange that runs on IoTex called Mimo, and someone launched a DeFi product called Mimo. I'm like, what the hell is going on? But I understand where they're coming from, because like when we named the answer to this question, we tried every single thing, and funny enough, there's a literally one or two products in around the world with every one of these names, right? So it's interesting. Nothing's really original anymore. It's hard to be original. Like you can't even buy a website without like paying $100 for some very simple URL that's just uncommon, right? So I see a lot of people using the .xyz URL. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yes, that's the new extension that has come up with .xyz. It's just that because, as you mentioned, you cannot get even a simple URL if you go out, if you want to buy that, because everything is taken. Everything is taken, and there's it is easy to come up with a product idea, what I believe, but it is really hard to come up with a product name.
Yeah, true. That's really true.
Because once you go about that, you will find everything is taken.
Yeah. No, definitely.
All right. So let's find out what's the correct answer for this question. And that is Pebble.
Yeah.
That's a really cute name again.
We originally named it Pebble because, you can see it now in this kind of clear case. But when we had originally designed it, we also included a case that was kind of more rounded, and it looked like a pebble, so it's kind of like a pebble you would put in your backpack, and it'll track things. So that's the reason we called it Pebble. Right now it's a little bit more bare bones and naked, but with the case it does look like a smooth river rock, so we called it Pebble.
Okay, so there is an outer casing as well for this.
There is, but it has to be 3D printed, right? It's very difficult to ship. So there were actually a couple of 3D printed options, I think, for cases for Pebble. But this is more of a developer board. It's not really meant for anyone to use. It's more unlocking the power of the trusted element and allowing people to program over it. So eventually, we would love to productionize it and make it so it's very plug and play. Anyone can just buy one and plug in a cellular SIM card and stream data to the blockchain. But for now, we're still in dev mode, right? We've provided the hardware and OS and we really want to see what people do with it. And it's really about the application side, right? How do you use the verifiable data? It's not just about, oh, I'm grabbing the data, I'm going to put it all in my data locker and no one's going to see it, but how do we use this data in the real world, right? So that's what we're really excited for.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Really great to know that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to the next question, which is what's UCAM's slogan? Own all the data, own your data, data ownership, or own it all. It's really funny, or like not funny. It's really amazing, as in like how something invisible such as data has grown into a thing of its own over the past couple of years. It's
Mm.
really a combination of all the technology which we use on a daily basis, the blockchain which has provided the value to it. And yeah, I think it was even when blockchain came into existence for the first time back in 2009. It was around that only Facebook and all these major giants, tech giants, were trying to, trying to cover the market, trying to expand their product range in the market, and all of this just started at the same point of time, wherein blockchain was trying to give value to the data,
Yeah.
and tech giants at the same point of time were trying to capture the majority of the data market.
Mm-hmm. I really like the way you put that. I think that's a very good way to think about it. I think like one thing I want people that are watching to understand is not all data is created equal, right? That's the first thing. Um, when we think about blockchain, there's a very common saying that, if you put shit data on a blockchain, you're going to get shit results, right? And it's very true. Like, a lot of projects out there call themselves IoT because they grab data from a centralized database, but that data happened to come from an IoT device, and then they put it on the blockchain. But it doesn't solve anything, right? Like you're putting data from a centralized database on a blockchain. It's kind of antithetical to this trusted network that we're talking about, right? Meaning, how can you prove to someone that you didn't manipulate that data on your centralized database before you put it on, right? You're not adding any trust to that scenario. So when we say, hey, we're writing data directly from devices onto the blockchain and there's no centralized database, there's levels to this data game, right? And that's one thing I think is important for people to understand. And I think the other thing for people to understand is really like, a lot of people ask us like, why do we want to own our information and our identity and data today, right? A lot of people think directly about money, right? How can I sell my data? But it's kind of like, think about this, right? If you are driving to work every day, say that you drive 30 minutes on the freeway, and if you collect that data for 1 week, versus 1 year, right? How much more valuable will that 1 year of data be versus that 1 week? I would say is much more than 52 times more valuable because you have network effects. The more data history you have, the richer insights you can get from that data, right? So maybe your data is not worth that much today in small batches because like for the person buying it, what kind of insights are they going to get from 1 week of data? They can't tell who you are or how traffic patterns have evolved on your drive. But kind of like a credit history, if you build your data history over time, it's going to become more and more valuable to potential buyers of that information, right? Like it doesn't have to be an outright sale. Even if people in the future, if you own your data, kind of give away the answer. If you own your data, and then you allow people to run algorithms on top of it, it's a concept called federated learning, right? Then you can rent your data. You don't have to sell your data outright. So, right? But if you don't have data that's valuable to people, meaning there's no history, it's not verifiable, it doesn't meet the standards that you need for people that don't trust you to trust you, then yeah, you're not going to make any money on your data and you should stop complaining about it. But like if you do want to have this in your future where you can have passive income from data that is just derivatives of what you do on a daily basis, then this is something to start thinking about. Yeah. Um, so
Definitely, it will age better with time. Will
I
become
think so.
more mature, more valuable with
Hmm.
as the time passes on, because there will be more data points or the factors which anybody can analyze through the data as being a part of that.
Hmm.
So definitely a great analogy here as well. And let's quickly check what the correct answer is, and that is B. Own your data. So guys, really focus on this part. Own your data starting right now. If you guys are not even, but for you guys, for our community, for IoTX community, I can say that being a part of the blockchain industry or the crypto industry and being part in the ecosystem, you all have already taken a steps towards that. And in future, each and every data trail that we will generate, we will make, we will definitely own that. And as Larry said, that once we own it, we don't have to sell it. We can simply rent it. And that means more money for us, for all of us.
Exactly.
So let's move on to the next one. And that is, which award did UCAM win? And your options are A, Apple Innovation, B, Best in Tech Award, C, Top Security Innovation, and D, CES Innovation Award. And we'll give community a little time here to see what answers will they come up with.
Hmm. Yeah, it's been really interesting, to see kind of the media coverage of UCAM. I think, like I said, I think now that this WhatsApp to Signal and Telegram migration has happened or is currently happening, our inboxes are blowing up with people that want to talk to us from the media. And I think it's going to be very interesting. Like, I think the thing that I saw everywhere, even like trending on Twitter, the top trend on Twitter was something that the COO of Signal said, and he said, "Privacy is not an option for Signal; it's built in by default, right?" And that's exactly what UCAM is. There's no privacy mode on UCAM; it's private by default, right? So I think, yeah, I'm excited to get more media coverage for UCAM is coming soon. But I really think, yeah, once it's like a snowball effect, right? With these awards and with these media mentions, sometimes the timing is really important. Even if you have the coolest thing, if it doesn't align with what's happening in the news, then it's hard to cover, right? So I'm looking forward to a lot more mainstream coverage of UCAM, even in the next couple of weeks, starting in the next couple of weeks.
Definitely, privacy is something that, as you pointed out, like it is not an option. It shouldn't be an option. It is our sovereign right. Like it is our right, you know,
Hmm.
to keep things private to us, whatever the data it is, whatever our personal things are.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, like in our previous in our earlier talk, as in the breaches, the data breaches, and uh, the exposure and the hacks which are happening every day now and then, which comes up into the media, and people, more and more people are getting aware about that. So they will
Hmm.
definitely be exploring options like UCAP. And what matters the most is that right now, if we have chosen the correct path and we are moving on that, we are working upon that, that even though it is not gonna be uh, even though it is not gonna be what you can say, like the mass will not grasp fully about the concept of that, or they will not fully realize the impact that it will create in the coming days, in the coming future. But what matters the most is that we are actually working upon that, be it through the
Mm.
UCAM project as you are, or be it through little steps that we take on a daily basis through the blockchain industry, or through the updates that we all come up with in the ecosystem and things like that. So that
Hmm.
is really important.
Very true.
So let's check what the right answer is, and that is D, CES Innovation Award. So CES is a very big technology summit that happens every year, right?
Yeah, canceled this year, or they went virtual this year. But it's every year in Las Vegas usually, and it runs
Right.
for about an entire week there. And this is where every major company makes their big tech announcements for the upcoming year, right? So CES 2021 just concluded last week, and this is where Samsung, LG, all these companies announced their new lineups of laptops, of TVs, right after Christmas season. Um, and yeah, we unfortunately couldn't attend live. We've been at CES for the past 2 years in person. And it's just a really great experience, right? I think you just meet a lot of people that are interested in consumer electronics, consumer devices. And um, I was really looking forward to going to CES this year because I wanted to see how people's perception of privacy changed year over year, right? We went to CES in 2019 and we're laughed at a lot of the time. So, oh, you're building a blockchain platform? It's like, okay, let me go to the next booth. I don't want to talk to you guys. But last year we won the CES Innovation Award, had tons of traffic in our booth, and I was really looking forward to what would happen this year. But next year we'll be back at CES for sure. It's always fun to go to Vegas too, just to explore and have a good time. So it's a huge conference city.
We'll definitely recommend our community check that out to stay on top of trends. So do
Hmm.
guys do hop onto the CES website and check out that. And let's move on to the next question, and that is, what is the name of IoTex concept for decentralized finance for the Internet of Things? Is it DeFi OT, DeFi IoT, or IoTex DeFi, or IODE, or the DeFi for IoT? There's a lot of
So,
DeFi in this.
yeah, yeah.
Pretty complex one.
But
It
yeah,
was a
just to
tongue twister
explain
for
this,
me.
yeah, just to explain this concept a bit, right? Like this concept of decentralized finance, which is DeFi, right, for the Internet of Things. This is really about how do we use data from our smart devices in order to trigger different financial actions, right? For example, if we wanted to use data from a Pebble tracker in order to determine whether or not someone is paid in full or in half, right? I think that example that we walked through, that's something we consider to be finance driven by IoT, right? Another example is if you have data as a service. If you want to sell or monetize your data, or that use case we were talking about, if you want to rent your data, right? That's also a financial use case based on the Internet of Things. So this concept for us is almost like one very big category of how people will use data on the IoTex network, right? It starts with bringing the data to the chain in a trusted fashion. That's where our Oracle concept comes in. Then once you have that data on the chain, assigning ownership to people through a decentralized identity. It's kind of like a personal data locker on chain. And then once you have that, you have ownership of your data. Then you kind of have your data and your devices as on-chain digital assets. And that's where the financial aspect of things starts to go, right? Do you want to sell your data? Do you want to loan your data? Do you want to borrow other people's data? Or do you want to rent your data? Do you want to own fractional pieces of a machine that generates cash flows? All of these things are based on the concept of trusted devices registered to the chain and exclusively owning the data and the value that that machine generates. And how you want to split that, sell that, loan that is really where the finance part comes from. So
Makes
definitely more
sense.
at the application layer. But it's a huge market, right? Huge, huge market. Infinite use cases we can talk about.
Definitely. Does make sense. So it's like when once the data is in from the physical world, be it through an IoT product, and how you are going to monetize is basically because you will need some kind of financial structure around that. And
Mm-hmm.
in the blockchain industry, the best financial structure that we we have all matured towards is DeFi, wherein you can stake, wherein you can lend, wherein you can make parts of your assets, and you can just use that as a collateral. So you can use your data, which you will get from the physical world, and that can be collateralized, staked, rented, or monetized through the decentralized finance. So that's
Yeah,
more or less like the gist of it, right?
exactly. And one thing that is really interesting to think about is you mentioned like traditional thinking around DeFi, right? Like a mining rig or like a Filecoin miner, Ethereum miner, Bitcoin miner. These are all devices too, right? So one thing that I hope I'm not giving anything away, but like one thing that we're really working on is figuring out a way to have fractional ownership of these machines, right? Or if you own one of these mining rigs and you say, for example, you need some capital in order to buy another machine or fund other operations, then you can trade your future cash flows from your machine for upfront capital, right? It's kind of this concept of borrowing and lending based on machines that generate money for you, right? And starting with mining machines is the most obvious thing. But in the future, when we're all part of this sharing economy, there's going to be machines out there that make money on their own, right? Robo taxis, of course, is a very futuristic example, but vending machines, like airport lockers, charging stations, all of these things where devices offer us a service, but that device may be owned by a group of people in a decentralized fashion, right? And you can buy, sell, trade your ownership of these devices in the future. And that's really what IoTex is headed towards. It's kind of the concept of devices that have identities. And once a device has an identity, you can really assign it and split it and all these different permutations. So yeah, the answer to this question is yeah, we can dive into that first, that part.
Sure, sure, sure. So let's check out what the answer to this question is, and that is A, DeFi IoT.
Yeah,
Well, that's
DeFi OT, kind of like DeFi
DeFi
and
IoT.
IoT together. Yeah,
Right. Okay. That's a really cool case, though. As you
yeah,
spilled the beans, like that's a really cool case. Like owning a fractional part of the mining rig or the mining machine. That's a really cool case.
yeah,
You really cool use case in the sense like there are like with the rise in the difficulty and the asset inflation prices, like inflation in the asset prices for even the basic technological equipments as well, for a lot of users it's going to get it, it is hard already, and it's going to get really hard in the future as well to own a piece of the mining rig, or to have their own rigs, or the infrastructure around that, and giving them an opportunity in order to own the fraction of that hardware, of that infrastructure in itself, will add a lot of value to the ecosystem.
right, right. There's a lot of people already trading hash power and things like this. I think it's kind of interesting, but to extend that concept, like one thing I really think is going to be massive in the future is the concept of user-owned energy markets, right?
User
Um,
owned.
when we think about solar panels, windmills, and all these things that generate renewable energy, you're not necessarily generating money meaning fiat or cryptocurrency, but you're generating energy credits, right? Not only are you generating energy that other people can use and you can sell to people, but if you're mining renewable energy, you're going to get carbon credits back as well. So there's multiple streams of income that people can really start to decide, okay, together, we are going to invest in this solar panel farm. And these are our revenue streams from selling the energy, selling the carbon credits, maybe even selling the data so other solar panels can operate more efficiently, right? So let's take all of these revenue streams, chop them up, and sell them as fractional shares. Even crazier example is when satellites become very common, right? Satellites are one thing that can make money in many different ways, right? You can take drone imagery from a satellite. You can provide Wi-Fi or like connectivity through a satellite. You can manufacture things in space using satellites, right? So if people collectively decide, hey, I want to get into the space mining business, it's going to be very hard to afford to buy an entire satellite outright, right? But maybe if you own 1,000th of that satellite, you can get some passive income from that. And yeah, it's kind of like owning a share in a company, except it's a micro. It's kind of divided up less into very vertically integrated stacks, and it's more distributed, right? So it's going to give people a lot more investing opportunities. And yeah, I think it just rethinks again what people can think about devices.
Definitely, and that's really a big market in itself. Being
Mm-hmm.
taking the data in and taking all these technologies, as you mentioned, the energy market, the carbon credit market, and even the satellite industry. So that's going to be a really big segment to tap into, and
Mm-hmm.
really excited to see how all of this will evolve in the coming futures, and really excited to be a part of this journey with IoTX. So let's move on to the next and the final question. What is the name of IoTX native wallet? Is it Pay IoT? Is it IoTX Pay? Is it IoTX Vault? Or is it IoP?
Yeah, just a little story about our native wallet, right? We put a lot of work into our mobile wallet, and it shows, right? I think all the things that we talked about during this presentation are available in the native wallet. Things like staking are built in natively into the wallet. Sending transactions, receiving transactions, seeing all your seeing all your transactions in the Explorer. Even we've built an integration so you can sign in to UCAM through your native wallet address. So those two apps are completely synchronized. Another great thing is right on the wallet, right in the wallet itself, you can access our decentralized exchange. It's called MIMO. So you can start to trade IoTex and other, we call them XRC20 tokens. There's more and more being launched on our network right now. We actually had one that's a kind of community-driven launch yesterday. It's called Cyclone, and just like new tokens popping up. It's really fun. So in addition to that, there's just so many features in the wallet. And we're soon going to be adding mnemonic phrase and just making it better and better over time, right? I think we get a lot of great feedback on this wallet. Not easy to build, not easy to maintain, but definitely a great portal into the IoTex network. So when Akshay reveals the name, definitely find it on the App Store, download it, and it's definitely a good introduction into IoTex.
Sure, definitely. The community will check it out, and let's quickly reveal the name and the answer for that. And that is IOPay. IOPay.
Yes,
So
download the IoPay
that's
app
the
for
name,
sure.
guys. Yeah, definitely. So that's the name, guys, and do definitely check it out on the App Store and on the Android store. And as Larry mentioned, that it is a power-packed wallet for the users, and really like the built-in facility that you mentioned about the text, because it as a user it becomes really convenient to simply exchange your assets if you want to do that. And a built-in DEX, a built-in decentralized exchange feature within the wallet, it it provides user the convenience to not leave the wallet and just get things done at their convenience
Mm-hmm.
in a very short
Exactly.
span of time.
And even in the wallet, right? I mentioned you can trade IoTex and different XRC20 tokens, but it also, we built a cross-chain bridge to Ethereum. So now we have assets like ETH, IOBTC, which are synthetic versions of the ERC20 tokens. But what this allows people to do is they can trade IoTex for Bitcoin, Ethereum, gold, and USD equivalents right on decentralized exchange without needing to deposit into different exchanges. But if you were to deposit into exchange, make sure that's DCX. Yeah,
Definitely. So all of these assets that you mentioned, these are available in the DEX currently?
they are. Yeah. So it functions just the same as Uniswap. you can provide liquidity to any of these pools. Right now, I think there's about 10 different pools out there for the different assets we have, and more launching every day. But the ones with the largest trading volume, as expected, are IoTex to BTC on the DEX, and also IoTex to Vita, which is a XRC20 token, very popular with our community. And yeah, just a lot of cool assets out there. And we're hoping to add some new stable coins soon. And yeah, just more assets overall. So
Awesome, awesome. So I know, Larry, that we have already been way over the time frame that we discussed, the time limit that we discussed. We'll quickly like to take 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes more of your time here. We'll just quickly announce the winner for the round so
great.
that they can drop in their email IDs for us to track upon, and then we will end the session here. Okay.
Sounds good.
So just let me just quickly start from the top of the chat. And for the first question, the winner is Crypto Ocean. He was the fastest one to reply and with the correct answer, which is 2017. So Crypto Ocean, I would request you to please kindly drop your email ID in the chat as well, and we will pick up the email ID here. And also make sure to fill out the form which we have shared in the description so that your email ID can be matched with there as well, and the rewards can be sent out to you. So for the first question, it is Crypto Ocean. And then now let's move on to the second question, which was the correct answer was D, user for that. And let's quickly check who was the quickest one to answer that. And that is Justin Callis. So Justin Callis is the winner for the second question. Justin, please do drop us your email ID in the comment section below, and make sure to fill out the form in the description that we have shared so that we can cross-reference the same and share the rewards with you guys. Now, quickly moving on to the third one. The third question was, what consensus mechanism does IoTex use? And for that, the correct answer was B. And let's quickly check who sent us the right answer for that. And that is Fabio R. Fabio R is the winner for the third question. Fabio, please do drop us your email ID in the comment section below, and make sure that you fill out the form as well, which is available in the description. Quickly moving on to the fourth question, what is the code name of IoTex mainnet GA release? And let's quickly check who was the quickest one to answer that. And that is Veto Sports Bet. Veto Sports Bet was the quickest one after Crypto Ocean and Justin Callis. Justin and Crypto Ocean have already won earlier. So Veto Sports Bet, please do drop in your email ID in the comments below. And also make sure that you do fill out the form which is there in the description so that we can cross-reference your email ID there. Now, the fifth question, which was, what is IoTex vision slogan? And the correct answer for that was B, Internet of Trusted Things. And quickly check who was the first one to answer that, and that is the user ID 26 Anurag CK. So Anurag, if you're still here, then do please drop us your email ID in the comments below, and make sure that you do fill out the form as well. Moving on to the sixth question, which was, what's the name of IoTex device that generates data that can be verified and trusted by anyone? The correct answer was C, Pebble. And let's quickly check who was the first one to answer that question. And that is Ram Prakash Dev. So Ram Prakash, please do drop in your email ID in the comment section below, and make sure that you do fill out the form which is there available in the description as well. Moving on to our seventh question, what's UCAM's slogan? The correct answer was B, own your data. And let's quickly check who was the first one to answer that. And that is Rishabh Jan. Rishabh Jan is the winner for the seventh question. Rishabh, do drop us your email ID in the comment section below, and also make sure that you do fill out the form which is available in the description. And moving on to the next one, the eighth question, which award did UCAM win? And let's quickly check who was the first one to send us that answer. And the correct answer was sent to us by Tamara View. Tamara, if you are still here on the live stream, then please do drop us your email ID in the comments below, and do make sure to fill out the form in the description so that we can cross-reference the ID and send you guys the reward. Moving on to the second last question, which was what is the name of IoTex concept for decentralized finance for the Internet of Things? The correct answer was A, DeFi OT. And let's quickly check who was the first one to answer that. And the first one to answer that correctly was Satya Swaroop. Satya Swaroop, if you are still here on the live stream, then please do drop us your email ID in the description below, and in the comments below, and make sure to fill out the form which is available in the description. Now, moving on to the last one, what is the name of IoTex native wallet? The correct answer was D, IoPay. And let's quickly check who was the first one to answer that. And that is the username 126 Bitcoin. So 126 Bitcoin, please do drop us your email ID in the comment section below, and also fill out the form in the description. So all the winners, please make sure that you do leave us your email ID in the comment section so that we can cross-reference it with the description, with the form that you will fill out in the description. And please make sure that you do fill out the form in the description as well, so the rewards can be sent out to you as early as possible. So I thank you all for participating and taking the time out to answer all the quizzes and being a part of On the Block series with IoTex. Larry, thanks a lot. This was a really interesting session for us. Quite a lot of information that we gained through this session, and definitely looking forward to host an upcoming session or another engagement activity with IoTex moving forward in the near future.
Definitely. No, thank you so much for inviting me, and it's always a pleasure to interact with the CoinDCX community. So when we have some new announcements, we'll be sure to jump back on and share. But yeah, for everyone out there, thanks again. Definitely check out IoTex. And yeah, as I mentioned, there's an ongoing ideathon for Pebble. So if you're inspired by any of these discussions that we're having about human-machine interactions, then definitely share your ideas. There's thousands of dollars in prizes to be won, and it really allows you to think outside the box. So there's more information, just YouTube Pebble Ideathon, and you'll find some information. But yeah, thanks for your time, Akshay. Great host, and looking forward to doing this again soon.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.